Hello and welcome to my channel. I picked up this toy called Xenomorph Swarm, and this is from the Alien collection. I looked at this and thought about challenging myself and seeing if I could convert it to a more realistic looking diorama. So let's open it up and see what we actually get with this set. It looks like you get two alien figures, but one of them is just a cardboard cutout to help fill out the display space. So what you actually get is one alien figure, a facehugger, an egg, and a human character with a gun. These figures are moderately posable, but their joints are very loose, so there's no way they'll be able to stand unaided. The egg has a couple of stickers on it which needs removing. Colour wise, the egg and the facehugger could probably get away with just a little wash to darken their appearance and make them look a little grittier. But for the alien and the human figure, they're going to need a complete overhaul. In fact, the left hand on the research scientist appears to be on backwards, and despite my best efforts, it doesn't appear to want to rotate, and I'm reluctant to cut it off and reposition it, as it will have a high chance of dropping off again in the future. I'm not sure what the pegs are for on his leg, so I'll chop them off, and I'm wanting the position of the character to be less static, so I'll break out my heat gun and soften up that plastic. And now I should be able to extend their position to something more creative, although it's a bit difficult to do with the glove on. You can see just how bendy the plastic is now, based on how wobbly the tail is. I just need to pull out the joint and hold it into position until it cools down. And now that I've done this, the joints are more loose than ever, so those need gluing into position. I use Gorilla Glue because it will expand and fill in all the voids. Plus it's also slow setting, so it gives me a chance to clean it up as it dries. I repeat the same process for the scientist. I basically put him in the position of standing on a rock holding his weapon, as this was the only realistic position I could put him in. And as with the alien before him, he needed plenty of joint gluing together and filling in. And once the glue is dry, some of the drips can be cut off. And then it's just a matter of filling in all the gaps with green stuff. And this is probably the most lengthy process of this project, but it's an essential one, as it will help transform the toy into a more realistic looking figure. Metal sculpting tools are great for pushing it into all those crevices and moulding it into the shape you want. I want to give the green stuff a chance to fully cure, so for now I'll concentrate my efforts on building the base. I've cut a piece of PVC board to size and I'm just working out positions. I'm going to have the facehugger wrapped partly around the egg. In order to do that I need to soften up the tail and reposition it. And that's pretty much the shape I'm after. And now it's time to go through all my scrap material to help build up this base. And I'm aiming to make it look like a futuristic basement, something that will fit in a colony type environment, hence the need for this pipe. And once I've worked out roughly where everything's going to go, I'll glue it all down with PVC cement. And I have to make sure I don't leave any gaps, because later on I'm going to pour some resin into this and I don't want any leaks. As with any diorama, the more detail you add, the more realistic it becomes. And once that's done, I just need to file down the edges and make it all look neat and tidy. I also scuff up the surface, and this will help the paint to adhere to it. I decided a black primer was the best base coat I could use, and that way I could build up a series of colours using dry brushing techniques. And I started that off by adding some white, making sure to catch a lot of the edges. I also went over with a silver paint to make things more metallic, and that was followed up with a brown wash to dirty everything down. And this can always be pulled back by dabbing on a tissue. Then just for the area where the water is going to be, I dab on some green paint. Then I put that to one side to dry while I set to work on the figures. For the egg and the facehugger, all they need is a wash and a dry brush and they're done. And the alien itself is a quick process, and I start that off by spray painting it all in black. Then he gets a dry brush in a light blue, then his teeth are coloured in silver. and that took no time at all. Almost feels like cheating. For the human figure, or the scientist as what it's called on the box, I started by painting on the grey primer. Because his face was already painted, I decided to cheat a little bit. I dry brushed some white into his hair and covered his face with a wash, and this was enough to help him look more three-dimensional. I quite liked the grey on the suit, so that's what I decided to paint it. And then dry brushing on a white colour afterwards helped bring out all the detail. This ended up being a lucky accident, as I originally intended the suit to look like that of the first film. Even though he won't be wearing it, I painted the helmet to match. To break up the suit a little bit, I added on a couple of subtle colour changes, and that include painting the gun black along with a couple of little accessories, and the knee pads and elbow pads along with the soles of the boots were painted in a light grey. And with all the painting done, it's just a matter of attaching it all to the base, and for that I used some brush on super glue, and once I pour on the resin, that will also act like an adhesive. I'm positioning the facehugger as if it's creeping around the egg, ready to jump onto its host, and the scientist is going to be stood right in front of it, completely oblivious. And just behind him, with his fate completely sealed, is the alien warrior. And now to add the resin for the flooded part of the base, it's always advisable to use a paper cup, and I add in a single drop of green paint to help taint the colour. And then I add in the hardener, mix it up and pour. Even though I made the base to be self-enclosed, I made a tinfoil tray just in case of any leakages. And with a cotton bud, I even dabbed some resin around the edge of the egg. The surface of the water is far too smooth, so using some Mod Podge, I add on a bunch of ripples. And then for the second layer, I add in a touch of white paint, just add some froth. And the last thing I do is glue the helmet to the ground like it's been placed there. And then I'm ready to seal everything in with a matte sealer. And there we have it, a finished alien diorama. And considering this started life as a children's toy, I think it looks quite impressive. Just being able to change the posters alone to make them less static makes a big difference, and creating an environment for them to exist in also helps. Ultimately, it just goes to show that if you have the imagination, you can make it work. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.